Hi, my name is Sabrina Rani Furminger, and I am host of the YVR Screen Scene podcast, and you are watching the Filmcraziest Show.
Cool. It's a cool little mashup that we're having here today. And
Yeah,
I'm Daniel, and we're here to speak about the YVR screen scene for India, right?
that's right.
Now, do you just want to tell us a bit about how that came to be and what the premise of it is?
Sure. So I host a podcast here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, where I interview people who work in the Vancouver film and TV industry. And I launched the podcast in March 2019, and I've released 163 episodes to date. However, for the decade before that, I was a film and TV industry columnist for a couple of newspapers. So my connections in the film and TV industry out here run really deep. Okay, so we're gonna put a pin in that for a minute, and I'll also say that another big part of my identity is my heritage. I am on my dad's side, I am South Asian. On my mother's side, I'm Ukrainian, and watching the news coming out of India the last few weeks has been absolutely devastating. You have a country that went from in January looking like it had beaten COVID, which is phenomenal when you consider that India has 1.3 billion with a B people. And fast forward to now as a result, and there are many reasons for what has happened, not the least of which is arrogance on the part of the government, who went ahead with an election, had massive in-person rallies. Then there was also a massive Hindu religious festival that happened. It's the largest religious gathering in the world, and that happened with like no masks. And now we're at a situation where you can't even, if you have COVID, if you come down with some symptoms, you can't even get into a hospital. People are dying in rickshaws and taxis and cars and ambulances parked outside of hospitals. There is a massive lack of space in hospitals. There's a lack of oxygen. In Hindu culture and Hindu religion specifically, cremation is one of the ways that we deal with our dead, and the crematoriums are working 24/7 right now. There are giant fields that are just burning all the time. My family, they're living in intense fear, and as a result I'm living in fear over here because I have been feeling utterly powerless. So you take that. So last Wednesday, I'm on the WhatsApp group because that's huge in Indian culture. Everybody's on the WhatsApp. We're all communicating, and it was like 2 p.m, I think, and I sent a message to one of my buas in Mumbai, and I'm like, I want to donate. Like, I want to donate to a charity there. Can you recommend some that are doing work on the ground? And but it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, so she didn't get back to me. But as I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, how much money do I have? Well, I don't have very much. I want to send a lot of money, and and then I'm like, and then I thought about that thing that we put the pin in before, which is, my film and television industry contacts. And I have a lot of dear friends, close friends who are South Asian Canadian actors who are feeling the same kind of powerlessness, the same kind of desperation that I'm feeling. So I was like, well, let's put like there is something I can do. I can rally my community. What can I do? I can put on a show because that's something that I know how to do. I hosted a charity event a couple of years ago. That was it was called Straight Outta Sci-Fi. And we had my best friend Amanda Tapping and Simon Barry, Rakia Bernard, Alex Ponovic, Leah Cairns, Chelsea Reist. And we were in a theater and we raised, a few, I think $5,000 for this young boy who was, dealing with an awful disease that was attacking his immune system. Obviously, I can't do that right now because theaters are closed. We've our numbers out here in BC, both with daily case counts and hospitalizations, have been very high. But what if I was like, what if I do something like that? A very joyful inside the actor studio type of event, but the we elevate and we amplify voices, of South Asian Canadian actors, and we can reach people all around the world. And every single penny can go to a charity organization that's doing work on the ground. So, fast forward, so a few more hours, I had everybody said yes. Everybody. There's one person who said he couldn't do it. My dear friend from many decades, Stephen Lobo, because he's shooting a short film that day. I'm like, okay, so that's too bad. Otherwise, he totally would have done it. But everybody else said, yes, absolutely. And so we got the ticketing, we got the title, we got the idea, I got all the people. So my aunt sent me back some names. And she's like, you can send somebody here and here. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, just so you know, we're doing this big event. And she was just, what I think it did for her too, to know that, people thousands and thousands of miles away, that they cared, and that they're thinking about, her and her community and her neighbors and her country. That meant a lot to her. I think it's been good for her and for the rest of my family there as far as mental health. And we've only been live for a few days, and we've raised more than $2,000. And every single penny is going to one of three organizations, and none of them are government organizations. I know that the Indian government has set up their own charity fund, and we looked for ones that were independent, and that have a long track record of providing disaster relief on the ground in India. So one that was a no-brainer for me was Doctors Without Borders, and they're setting up two 1,000-bed units in a field hospital in Mumbai. That's huge. And they're also providing doctors, and they're providing nurses. And then there's the charity Gunj, which, for years has been working not just in urban areas, but in rural areas as well. Even though COVID is hitting all of the, people at all levels, in Indian, economic society, the poor people, the people in poverty, the marginalized people, they're the ones who, in anything, they get hit the worst, right? We even see that here in Canada. It's the essential workers. It's the racialized people who are getting hit the worst. And then there's an organization called Khalsa Aid International. And they, this past weekend, they flew just a whack of oxygen concentrators into Delhi. And so that's what we're contributing towards, is our oxygen concentrators. So every penny, there's no, I'm not taking a cut, and those organizations aren't taking a cut. It's going right to disaster relief. And, the relief, the need for help is urgent, incredibly urgent. There are likely more people suffering from COVID and dying from COVID in India than is being reported, because they're only counting the registered case counts. They're only counting if you've gone to the hospital or been tested and have been said, okay, you have COVID. But, that person, they might have a house full of people, who are also infected. And if those people die at home or in cars or whatever, they don't get counted. So it is a catastrophe that is happening right now in India. So I've been very humbled the last few days as people have reached out to donate. Like my uncle in New Jersey, he bought 10 tickets, just he's the only one person, he bought 10 tickets, right? Just to support, and outlets all around the world, such as yours, coming on to help spread the word to the world. It's been really, really moving. Really moving for all of us who are involved. And I'm so excited about my guests too. This is some phenomenal talent that is coming on for YVR Screen Scene for India.
For sure. Now, you've painted such a great picture of what's happening there, and thank you for that. And I wanted to make sure your family's okay, right?
My family is no one has COVID. But they are in areas and in buildings, and part of communities that have just been walloped. It's
Okay.
like it's really just luck in a lot of cases that they haven't got COVID. They haven't tested positive. And my aunts, like, they're both in their 70s, right? Like, they are, and in a city, like, the air quality in Mumbai and also in Delhi is awful on, like, a great day. Like, it's awful. I remember, going to India years ago and, like, stubbing my toe and crying, and, like, my tears were black just from the exhaust fumes, because it's
Oh
a very
wow.
coal centric, burn everything kind of culture. So, a lot of people have, a lot of people just from living in India, especially in the urban areas, have, like, respiratory ailments, and so a disease, this plague that is attacking the respiratory system, it couldn't have happened to. Oh my gosh. Like, it's just like India, especially being the country that is producing, the vaccines. The serum, I think it's called, like, the Serum Agency of India. It's one of the pharmaceutical companies, that
Okay.
is producing, like, vaccines for the world. And yet they're the ones who are, right now topping all those daily case counts and death lists. It disgusts me, and it really saddens me.
Yeah, that's just insane what's happening for sure. And like,
Yeah.
and sorry, you had mentioned that you've raised $2,000 so far. Is that just through the ticket sales?
That's just through ticket sales. Yeah. So we've
Cool.
raised, so we started selling tickets on Friday, and today is Tuesday. Tickets are $20 each, and we've so far sold $2,172 worth. So people are also making donations, on top of it, buying multiple tickets. You can change the amount that you spend. And then once we're done, my company is going to throw another $500 there. So, I mean, you could say we've raised almost $3,000, but I 2000 was my initial goal, and we've surpassed it. This is, I think, is really speaking to a larger need. I mean, if you're empathetic, you don't have to have a connection to India to care about what's going on in India.
True.
But for a lot of us in the diaspora, who have connections to India, I mean, we're also going through this double. It's like a double catastrophe, or double mental health trauma and physical trauma, because a lot of, so we're worried about our families over there, but then we also, I mean, large concentrations of people from India, live in areas like Brampton and Surrey, and are essential workers, and they're also getting sick, and they're also not getting the vaccine here, in large quantities. So, I think there is a feeling of powerlessness, about so many things, that have to do with being South Asian and Canadian right now. So this is one event that people can pour their energy, their love, their time, their funds in, and then have the reassurance that the money is 1,000%, going to go to these causes, these charities, these people. Like, that's been the most important thing for me. I didn't want to give to any organizations that like just take a big chunk off the top. I mean, even with Squarespace, I love you, Squarespace. You host my podcast. It's awesome. But, every transaction they take 60 cents from, right? So I'm keeping a log of every single time we sell a ticket and those 60 cents. And I'm going to cover that at the end to make sure that not a penny is lost. Everything needs to go to India and to the people in India.
That's amazing. Cool. Now, are people going to be able to donate in any other ways, or is it just through ticket sales?
I'm I mean, there have been a few people, pretty prominent people in the Vancouver acting scene, actually, who've been like, I can't come, but I'm gonna buy some tickets, and that'll count as my donation. And
Okay.
I'm also going to set up. And this will be a little later, because also I'm learning how to do all of this as I go, right? Like,
For sure.
and then hosting this, this inside the actors studio, panel, this online event, like I want it to look good, and I want to figure out how to do it all myself. So it's not just like a sea of little boxes, you know? So I'm learning, I'm watching so much YouTube, and I'm learning so much. Thank you everybody who's posted a YouTube video about how to host a webinar. So I am also setting up an option on the website. It'll be on the events page where there is a ticketing option. There will also be a like make a donation, name your own amount option, and that will go right into the pot, and then all of that will go to the 3 charities.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I wasn't like, if someone can't make it to the thing on May 8th, Saturday, May 8th at
Saturday,
2 p.m.
May 8th.
PST?
Yeah, it's Vancouver. Yeah, 2 p.m. Vancouver time, and I don't know if it's PST or PDT right now, so I'm like, I'll just been saying Vancouver time.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to find a time where, because I personally, the YVR Screen Scene podcast has a huge community in Europe and in England, largely because of my friendship with Amanda Tapping. I've met all of these incredible fans over there from, you know, accompanying Amanda to her convention that she has in England. So I wanted a time, I was like, I know that they're going to support, I want to find a time where they can watch. But also that like people in Vancouver can, and people in Toronto. Like I was just trying to find and 2 p.m. just seemed like the best time. Some people were like, can you do Sunday? I'm like, that's Mother's Day. Like,
yeah.
that's you're asking for too much on to take time off, especially in the afternoon on that day. So that's why we chose that date, that time. I probably could have done it in a week or two, but just the need just feels so great. The need feels like whatever money we collect, by the end of that day, that money is going to be donated. So like I felt the need was just so immediate that I wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. So it's a week. We're doing all of this in a week.
Yeah, it's literally like super impressive, because you said you would send that text out to your aunt on Wednesday the 28th, I guess. So 10 days, right? In between.
Yeah. By Wednesday afternoon. So it was just last Wednesday.
Yeah.
By Wednesday afternoon, I had the first people saying yes coming in. By Thursday morning, I had confirmed everybody. Rekha Sharma was the last one to confirm, and I'm so happy because I know that, you know, the Battlestar Galactica community and fandom is huge, and I know Rekha is so passionate, and will be just like, they're all going to be awesome on the panel. I could not have asked for a better panel. But yeah, so by Thursday night, the ticketing system was all set up, and then by Friday morning, I launched it. So everything's been happening really fast, because it needs to happen really fast.
That's so impressive, and there must be like even figuring out the logistics of it, like, but in that short time is like, wow, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean that's it's what artists do, right? You know, there's I really consider my art is podcasting, and it's producing. Okay. So I was like, there's a part of me, especially the part, you know, I went to a performing arts high school. I was a voice major there in the 90s, and it was around the time of Rent, and we were all like, you know, there'd be all these things, crises and causes that we believed in, and the instinct was always like, let's put on a show, you know. So I was mining that inclination, that need, that skill set that I honed when I was 14 years old. But now I can do it with more resources, and and the resources that I have are the people, right? The people, and also I guess the technical skill set to do this kind of work. And what I don't know, I'm learning, and I'm asking for help, because I think that's the key to success, like in all things. Ask for help. Know what you know. Learn as much as you can. And what you don't know, ask for help.
I love it. Yeah, and you're setting up a foundation for when you guys do this again, or in the future if you ever do an event like it, right?
Well, my goal, before the pandemic, I was so close to launching YVR Screen Scene live events, where I would be doing the podcast 3 or 4 times a year, from a theater in front of an audience, inside the Actors Studio, the Paley Center Honors. But it would be, all the focus on, I'd get I get the guys from Stargate back together. We talk about it. I get, Intelligence and Da Vinci's, Godivas, Arctic Air, like Sanctuary. I get all those people back together, and then we do it in front of an audience. So, but I was like, then the pandemic, I'm like, well, I guess I can't do that. But this is, I'm going to be able to, the selling of tickets and and I mean, any opportunity that I can get to hone those conversation skills, to lead a group of people through a conversation. I'm talking a lot now, but I won't be talking that much. My role at the event at YVR Screen Scene for India is really to get people talking and to keep us in line and keep us in check as far as time goes.
Sure.
But to create that environment so that so we can hear from Praneet and Agam and Dhirendra and Sandy and Sachin and Rekha. Like that's who people want to hear from, right? So I am excited to. This has been it's been a very humbling and whirlwind week, and I'm really looking forward to Saturday. It's almost like the part that I'm least nervous about is the conversation, is what the magic that I know is going to happen on the day. I'm more worried about just making sure the technical side works, but luckily I'm going to have some admin help behind the scenes to handle that. So on the day I can focus on the conversation.
Okay. Now, is it going to be a structured conversation, or is it just going to be just anything?
It'll be structured. The way that but it won't be question, answer, or everybody has to answer the same question. I think where, especially in the previous events that I've done, the previous panel discussions, I think it's good to have questions and so that you can lead people. But I love to use the questions as this kind of loose roadmap, that I refer to get people back on track. But otherwise, there are definite things that I want to talk about. When I was inviting everybody to participate, be prepared to talk about, some of your favorite roles. People are going to want to hear you talking about that. Your experiences as South Asian Canadian actors, navigating this industry, especially every single one of the people that I am featuring have not played in the roles for which they are most famous. They haven't played caricatures of South Asian people. They have played, for Agam Darshi, before Funny Boy, the Deepa Mehta film that she just did, she was most famous for a character she played on Sanctuary, who was named Kate, and she was she's a real badass, that ended up working with the Sanctuary team, trapping abnormals. You have Sachin Sahel, who was on The 100, and he played a doctor, and honestly, the key identifier for his character, the one that they really leaned into and explored, was not the fact that he's a brown dude, that he's South Asian. It was the fact that his character is gay, and Praneet is currently playing Gil Bobsey on Nancy Drew, who has this hot thing going on with Nancy Drew, and he's part of the Bobsey twins. So his sister Amanda is played by Adila Dasani, and Dhirendra. He was nominated for an acting award last year for playing an unscrupulous character on Lego Jurassic Park. It's the Legend of Isla Nublar. So, and Sandy, with nurses, she is there as a student nurse, less about culture, more about the experience of being a healthcare professional. And I think most famously, Rekha Sharma, playing, well, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, oh my gosh. She played a Cylon. So, I want to talk about all those roles and that experience, and then the challenges they face in their careers, the joys. I have a feature on my podcast called Favorite Things. I'm going to whip up with my daughter, who's 10. She loves to help me with the favorite things questions. And then finally, I want to talk about, we will be talking about why people all over the world should care about what is going on in India right now. So, there is a journey that we're gonna go on. I think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be emotional. We're going to cry, I think. I'm prepared for that. We're going to laugh. It's a very special event where my role will really be bringing out the voices of all of these people, all of whom like know each other and like each other and have worked together. So I think it's going to be really special.
Okay, yeah, you've really put together an all-star little cast here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all, I think with one exception, they've all done my podcast. I've known Agam for like 9 years now. Dhirendra hasn't done the podcast, but he did walk. I hosted the UBCP ACTRA Awards virtual red carpet, and he did walk my red carpet. I hosted it from my kitchen in November, and he was so funny, and then he also made me cry. So and that was in like a 90-second red carpet interview. So I was like, really? I'm excited to have him, and also I know that he personally, and I think he will be speaking about this at the event, but he has lost people in India to COVID, and has cousins who are positive with COVID. So this really hits all of us, but hits him specifically and especially close to home.
Okay, yeah, so that's probably where the emotions are going to come up on Saturday. So I'm sorry for his loss. That's ouch. No. Sorry, I don't know where to go next.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's big stuff, right? I think what's been most impressive to me, dazzling to me, is the way that everybody just said yes to participating, and then the ways that listeners and also their individual fans and their family in India, like people are buying tickets. It really speaks to like honestly, like it speaks not just to the generosity of people's in people's hearts, but also like the power of fandoms, and then like when fandoms can the way that they can make change by pouring funds and energy and effort into charities that they hear about from the people that they watch on TV. I've had the opportunity to see that a few times. Sachin did a T-shirt campaign that was like about anti-bullying initiatives within fandom, and people like they came out for that from many different fandoms. And obviously I've mentioned Amanda's fans a few times, but they are just so wonderful. So yeah, it's remember I told you my husband, he was gonna have to try to walk through. He can't.
I can edit it out if he wants to.
Look at that. No, Paul, come here. Let him see you, because I said that you were huge too. He just turned beet red.
Oh no.
That's what happens. I gave him notice.
Okay.
Okay, he's gone now.
It's okay. I can edit it out if you want me to.
It would give me a lot of joy if you left that in. That's Paul Furminger, director of 2 episodes of Invincible and co-owner of Fish Flight Entertainment with me.
Okay, we're leaving it in.
He and I are very different personalities. And he is the one who's going to be running the back end of the event on Saturday. Okay. This is really like we both, I think, complement each other in that way. And he's actually the reason I ended up out here in the first place.
Oh yeah.
I've been out here for 19 years. We were long distance for 3 years. I met him in 1998 when I was on exchange when we were both on exchange in England. And then he came back. He went to film school, UBC. I was at Queen's University. I was super into the newspaper there. And then my last year, I actually was the news editor, which was rad. And then when it came time to approaching graduation, and I was like, where do we want to live together? And I just, I was like, I mean, I could stay in the rain and the snow, but I've done this for 21 years. I'm from Montreal originally. Okay. And I was like, or I could go to Vancouver. I didn't know what I wanted to do anyways at that point. I knew I wanted to write and do communications in some way. But I knew Paul wanted to get into the film industry. And I grew up watching so much sci-fi like that. Like I came to all of this, my very, very, very first entry into just like sci-fi and trying to figure out how film and TV worked was through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like from from September 1987. That was like where I was like, wow, like I want to live in that world and I want to know how it's all put together. I didn't want to work in that world. I just want to live in the world.
Okay.
And then, I was super into the X-Files as well. Well, the X-Files, I mean, before it ran away for, when David Duchovny wanted to be more in the sun as opposed to in rainy Vancouver. Like they really used the Vancouver atmosphere and all the different locations and the versatility of those locations to represent all sorts of different American states. So I was like, hey, we'll try Vancouver. And then I moved out here, and I felt like I was living in a film set because there were people filming all over the place all the time. And I mean that the first few months, I'd be like, Paul, he'd be like, where do you want to go for dinner? I'm like, I want to go to that diner from the X-Files. Like, okay. He's like, we should go get groceries. I'm like, where there's groceries is at City Square Mall, where there's the escalator from the X-Files. Like, oh my God. And then as time went on, he started working in film. We had a lot of friends who I started to get to know a lot of people who worked in the film and TV industry. A chief among them was this guy that Paul met back when he worked at the video store when he was still in film school. His name was Darren Shalavi, and he was a stunt artist and he was an actor. And Paul and Darren worked out together every day for years. And through Darren, I learned what it actually means to work in this industry, what it means to have a career, what it means to the impact on your mental health. When you're auditioning all the time and you're waiting for calls and you're not getting any callbacks, and also the passion and the grit and the skill required to really make it. And so I had worked as a film and television, not a film, dance and festival publicist for a few years. Wasn't really fulfilling work for me personally. And then I had my daughter, and I was like, I wanted to show her. This is 10 years, almost 11 years now. I wanted to show her, that I wanted to set a good example and be like, the work that mommy does means something to her, but I didn't know what that was. And then one day I saw that this actor that I really liked was going to be coming to town, as part of some event. And I'm like, I want to talk to him about the changes he's seen in his part of the industry. And so I just sent an email to like the editor of one of the newspapers here and be like, I have a site. It was not the way that they tell you to write a pitch letter. It was it was so the way that I'm talking now. I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I think it would be great. And she was an amazing woman. And she's like, I want to see this from you. Let's get this done. And so that was the beginning of that relationship. And then, after that article was released and it was so successful, I went in to meet her and she's like, what do you want to write about? And I said, I want to write about people who work in film and television. Thinking of my friend Darren, because I really feel like those are the stories that weren't being really told in the local media here. And that began an incredible relationship with the local journalism scene and also with the film and TV industry. And, I had a good run with that newspaper. It closed after 68 years. I rolled right into, I started YVR Screen Scene just for articles at that time. But then I rolled right into another newspaper, weekly column gig here as well. That newspaper closed at the beginning of the pandemic after 112 years. And then I was also a film festival juror and had a lot of, and I started putting effort and money back into the community. The podcast though has been, I feel like I've just found my thing, man. Like I feel like sitting down and talking to somebody for 45 minutes to an hour to find out what matters to them, to find out why they're in it, to honor, to make people, okay, so I mean, a big part of the story that I haven't said yet is that Darren, who went on to co-star in Ip Man 2 with Donnie Yen, and he was in the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series, and he died of a heart problem that he didn't even know that he had, and it was a massive loss for I mean us obviously personally, but also for our community. And so the podcast, what I love about it and what I try to do with it is to help people feel less alone. Because what I've learned, and specifically, I want to honor, like, I feel like an avatar for fans. So if I'm sitting there, I want to know the hows and whys and whats of everything, that these actors talk about. But the other group that I feel like I'm speaking to are actors, are people who work in the film and TV industry all over the world, because I've realized that those feelings that Darren had, those feelings of being in isolation, of waiting for the phone to ring, of always thinking about the next gig, of always feeling like you're on the outside of a community, and the mental health challenges that can cause. Everybody feels that, and it's been such a joy when the feedback that I get is your podcast helps me feel less alone in this industry, or in the last year your podcast has helped me feel connected to people at a time when we're not gathering in the same way. Yes, our film and TV industry is back up and running, but the community events aren't. Like, filming is happening, the community events aren't happening. Auditions, a place where people used to congregate would be in like the waiting rooms of casting offices. They're not seeing each other there anymore. So this is a way that people have used the podcast to feel community and feel less alone, and that that means a lot to me, to get that feedback, because I can't tell it to Darren. I can't tell him that now. All the things that I have learned since he died in, I think it's 2015 now. Oh my God. But I can honor people. I can honor him in that way to help other people, feel community, feel a sense of place, and just know that what they're going through is normal. It's so normal what they're feeling. They are not alone. So I don't even think you asked a question. I think I just started talking. But I hope that answers whatever question you might have had.
There was no, I love it. You just went into your background, but I love hearing your story. I love you sharing Darren's story, and just because you're so enriched, you're so like enrooted and enriched. I could be the word in the Vancouver film community. And just
I call myself
so
embedded.
great.
I call myself embedded.
I knew it was an N word, so embedded is great.
Embedded is because a lot of these people, I mean, it's so strange. Like, I look at who, like, I'm not a name dropper, even though I've said that my best friends is this, or my best, like, but that's because these have become my best friends. I sit down with somebody and, we have our first conversation is the most like earnest, loving, intimate conversation that they might have had in years and years, right? And then we just want to keep it going, so some of my best friends are people that like I need to talk to. Like, I need to, we help each other, and navigating this. So people like Amanda, people like Nicole Oliver, this voice actress, phenomenal voice actress and director. She was Princess Celestia on My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Sharon Taylor, Kira Zagorski, these are, I mean, we're all just people, and a lot of, we're moms as well in a lot of cases. And, we uplift and elevate and buoy each other. So I feel, I don't really I used to call myself a reporter. I stopped that after 2 years with the West Ender. I said I'm a columnist, because then you can insert more of yourself. And I just, because this is my community. I am part of the Vancouver film and television community. So I really care about what happens. And I mean, I will be with it through the hard times. Like I broke some stories about sexual violence and sexual harassment in the industry. You know, I'm also doing a series right now on as part of the podcast about white supremacy in the film and TV industry, and specifically as it relates to acts of hatred against Asian Canadians and Asian Americans, people in the diaspora. You know, so but I feel like, you know, because I'm embedded, because I love it, I've got to walk with them through good times and bad. And that is like that's part of my activism, you know, is and I really feel like they're coming together, you know, for me and for India in this moment, and that really warms my heart.
Yeah, yeah, I love what you're doing. I love all your conversations that you do. And there's like with my story, I guess, just like I love that you're willing to tackle those issues because like for someone like me, like I guess I'm more on the light for me, like I guess some of those topics scare me to talk about because I
Hmm.
don't know
Hmm.
them enough.
Yeah.
So I'm always just like even if COVID ever comes up on my podcast, right? Which is what we're talking about today, but like
Yeah.
sometimes if they bring it up and I'm like, okay, that's a hard topic. Let's get back to happier times, you know? So
Yeah.
I like what you're doing and
Well,
just
I mean, I think there's a place for every kind of conversation, you know? I mean, I will say this about YVR Screen Scene for India. Devastating, you know, like we're doing this because of really, really bad stuff that's going on. However, we're doing it with joyful purpose, you know?
okay.
It's gonna be hilarious. Like I know these people. You can't talk to Sachin or to Agam and not laugh. Like there's gonna be some levity as well, you know? I mean, I think also like we all kind of exist with levity and also with heartache and trauma, right? So, you know, we
Mhm.
have to find a way to I feel personally like I want to honor all the many parts of 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 humanity, you know,
Okay.
because it's all shows up in the work anyways that we watch on screen, but I want to do that like with the work that I'm doing. So,
Okay. Yeah, and
yes.
you're funny as hell too. So there's gonna be laughs, right?
There's gonna be, but I gotta be serious. I gotta lock my cats up. That's gonna be huge. Because I don't want them disturbing Wade Wilson and Vanessa. If you're watching this on your cat iPad, yeah, I don't want them
The cat
disturbing
pad.
that in any way. Um, yeah, joyful purpose. I mean, but you know, I can be funny, but I'm also sitting here with depression and PTSD, and you know, like we all contain multitudes, right? And I love that the
Yeah.
show. I mean, I could be talking to people from any industry and having the same conversations, right? Because it's all human experiences. It just so happens that the people I talk to, you know, are their passion is, you know, filmmaking or acting or stunt work, right? So, and there's a bit of a glamour in that. And I mean, honestly, I am I've become a bigger fan of the work that they do since I started, you know, figuring out how the work is put together and visiting film sets and stuff. Like I've just become an even bigger fan. There's some really great stuff that's being filmed in Vancouver, and Toronto for that matter. But Vancouver, I'm Team Vancouver. Um, yeah, and I'm an even bigger fan, you know, because I understand what goes into it now even more acutely.
Yeah, and like honestly, like when I started doing these interviews, like I would review the movies as well sometimes. So
Yeah.
like so sometimes I just feel bad if like I don't entirely love the film because it's just like I love what goes into it and I love the film more after I talk with the filmmakers, you know.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that. I won't say which projects, but there have been projects where I've watched it, I've agreed to an interview, and I've watched it. I'm like, not for me.
Okay.
But then in those interviews, it doesn't happen that often. But in those interviews, like I I I become a fan of the passion that goes into it, and then we'll talk about, you know, like why they wanted to do this and how they felt and the work that they like, you know, instead of it like um because that's all. I will often say, especially as somebody who who loves Star Trek since I was 7 years old. Geeks are the most passionate people. I mean, if you want to talk to people who are enjoying life and know how to just be like I love passion and people who work in film and TV are geeks. Like that's the first thing. Like if you go into their origin stories, I mean, they're the way that they manifest like that geekery. It has there's so many different ways that they do it. Some of them are like me and grew up with Star Trek and Star Wars and X-Files, and other ones it was just the words and it was theater, and other ones is because they made. I mean, Liz Bowen, who has she plays Deputy Liv on Resident Alien, which I highly recommend. Local show. Alan Tudyk. It's so funny. It's so funny. That's a great binge. But like she was talking about that, like she got people when she was 4. She was part of a play, and she had people laughing at her. And she was like, I want that. I want more of that. Okay. How do I get more of that? So and that's all passion. Like that's what geeks do. So I love to honor that on my show.
I love it. Yeah, and like my I got into it with like mid 2000s movies, like bad like comedies that no one remembers, like Accepted and those kind of films. And you mentioning Star Trek, that's probably my villain origin story, because my dad would always watch it on TV when I came home from school, and I'd be like, can we watch something else?
No, it's fine. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. My daughter's not into it. And I think that you always have to, isn't it part of like the hero's journey to reject your parents in some way? So you rejected the Star Trek. That's fine. My daughter has rejected every 80s movie that I love, and I'm like, oh, it's because none of them have aged well, and you have better stuff to watch that's made now. I got you.
Has she watched Back to the Future?
She loves those.
Okay.
Even 3. She loves those. No, but like, I mean, my husband and I, we were kids in the 80s, right? Like that was our decade. I was born in 1979. Okay. So like Goonies was a huge film, and then she watched it and she's like, this is like, they're making fun of the big kid and they're like racist and why are the girls? And I'm like, oh, right. Because you get Harry Potter and you get the MCU and you've watched all of the new Star Wars films. You've watched opening weekend. Like you get those. We didn't get that. Like we had Star Wars, but the women in those films and the diversity in those films back in the day was few and far between. But like she just sees, diversity and powerful women, and great writing for all everywhere. I'm so excited for her growing up with I mean, Shang-Chi's coming and Wakanda and I mean, even Rey, problematic a character as she might be. I mean, to have, those women in the, in all of those different universes, and Hermione, right? Like she's just, it's different. I love that she has that. But anyway, I had Goonies. She rejected Goonies, so that's fine.
Yeah.
It was her right.
We won't be hurt by that. Yeah, I'm a 94 baby, so I have some of those similar films as well.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of good films came out in the 2000s. Were such an interesting decade. Wow.
The aughts, yeah. Like Max Keeble's Big Move, Big Fat Liar. Those are ones I look fondly back on.
Well, I mean, and if you think about a lot of the films that were made, 2002 were made after 9/11, which changed like the American psyche, and also how like the what they needed from entertainment. That was the beginning of the superhero stuff, right? And then you had all of these procedurals where everything is locked up in an episode. Those became huge as well. So I think that I mean that could be somebody's dissertation, and probably already is. The impact that 9/11 had. You can imagine graduating in the aftermath of 9/11. You're like, oh great, the world's ending, and I've got my degree. I'm going to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because we
Well,
really didn't know the feeling of uncertainty and of there's an enemy out there, but they could be anybody, you know. That was what a weird time. It was a weird time. It was an awful time. Anyway, but we're still here. We're still here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was only 7 when 9/11 happened,
Yeah.
or 6. Yeah,
We
that's
are
funny.
we are months away from the 20th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Somebody said that to me. I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh God. I remember watching it with my watching it like it's my mom called me because my cousin worked in the World Trade Center Plaza and she was like, turn on the TV. I'm like, why? I had been up all night we were putting out our first edition of school year edition of the newspaper, so we were like up all night. I'm like, what? She said, just turn on CNN. And as I turned it on, like the second plane hit.
Oh.
I was like, well, I remember I had a kitten at that time, Stan Lee, and he was on my knee and he was just digging his claws into my knee. And I looked down and there was blood just all running down, but I didn't feel anything. And I just was like, I mean, there's a sense of surreal. And we've had a lot of moments like surreal events and moments and stuff since then. But
Hmm.
9/11, I mean, the only other thing I can compare it to was when during a school presentation, or like we were all excited because for in 1986 January we were going to watch the Challenger go up, and it was going to have a school teacher just like our school teacher. And then I was 6 years old, and then we watch it explode, and everybody's crying, and you're like, what just happened? What
Yeah.
just happened? Um, yeah,
Wow.
so 9/11 was like that, but the impact on every aspect of life, and especially as a racialized person as well, that made traveling really um, challenging and heartbreaking in a lot of instances. But it was an interesting time to begin my adult life. That's all I'm gonna say. But Stan Lee and I, we arrived in Vancouver with stars in our eyes, and just were like, let's see where we go. Let's see how we do. I think we did okay. We've done okay. I mean, R.I.P. Stan Lee, but he had a good life. He was 17 when he died, so.
And I guess both the cat and Stanley himself, right?
Oh my God, Excelsior. Yeah, he had a what an amazing life and
Right.
legacy, you know? I'm so excited that his spirit continues in the ways that it has and does in
Yeah.
all the projects. I mean, what are we getting? Like 4 new movies and 4 TV
Yeah.
shows and
Even
you
that
know,
even that voiceover yesterday, right? From that little
oh,
trailer.
that was
All
so,
the
and I just
upcoming.
remember watching, I mean, every single one of those films in the theater. And then to end with what's coming. And you're like, wow, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And that was all just from a person. I mean,
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of people, but, I mean, really just a handful of people had those ideas. And, people told them they were crazy and then they pushed them forward. And that's what we do in the arts. That's what we do. And we
Yeah.
can touch people and we can change lives. So,
I did have one thing here. I was just like I was listening to your podcast, and you
mhm.
asked these little wrap up questions. So did you want to answer any of them,
Ah!
or or
Yes, I
no?
think that's karma. I think it's karmic. All of the terror that I've caused all of my guests. Yes. Send it back to
Okay.
me. Send it back to
Okay.
me.
Wait. Okay. So I have a couple of them,
Okay.
but this one is mostly inspired by your conversation with Julia Sarah Stone, which I just
Okay.
loved. Um,
Thank you.
when
Yeah, she's so special.
I know, right? When was the last time? What was the last movie that you saw in a movie theater?
Can I swear on your podcast?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. There was a movie. So we had our theaters open up here again in Vancouver for like a few, so like for like late summer into the fall. And there was a film, it was a BC film, a Vancouver made film called Fucking Idiots. And it starred Sarah Canning, my friend Steve Lobo, Christina Sicoli, and Ben Cotton. And it was bonkers fun, but also really weird because the capacity, like this is a 400 seat theater or something like that, and there were only like 20 of us or whatever the maximum was, and
Okay.
but it was so like I got a bag of popcorn and I was just so happy to be there, and it was a comedy, so I laughed and I laughed, and yes, so fucking idiot.
I I thought I was gearing up for like you're gonna trash the movie.
No, I don't trash a movie unless it's like so offensive and is made from a place of hatred.
Okay.
But no, I couldn't believe they called their film that. And I like respect for that too. I thought that was great. It was great that they did that.
I love it. Cool.
Yeah, it's a great question. I might steal it.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Onward was the last one I saw in theaters.
Ooh.
See, I wanted see like Ottawa had opened up for a bit. Like in the summer, I could have gone, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because like a bit of anxiety, but also like, oh, I'll go next week. And then it was like, oh, we're shuttered down. You missed your chance, man. And then
Yeah.
same thing. I wanted to be a year to the day to see Raya and the Last Dragon, because the last one I would have seen would have been Onward. So like,
Onward.
Disney a year later. But
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think I missed it by a day. I can't remember though.
There's a lesson in that, Daniel. You have to like, if you're gonna go, you just gotta go because it will always close down the next day. Because that's a pattern right there.
That's true. That's true. Now, I also wanted to ask, what's your favorite karaoke song?
This is one of my favorite questions. My favorite karaoke song. So first of all, I love karaoke. I have sung karaoke in Japan, in England, and in Vancouver at all of the fine and grungy karaoke establishments. So I love to like go and get a room in a karaoke place and like get it for like 3 or 4 hours. And friends can come and go. Obviously not during the COVID because
Sure.
this is not a good activity where you're all just shouting and whatever. If it's gonna be me singing on my own, and I'm in the mood for like a ballad, I love the song "Killing Me Softly," the original version. I also love "I Will Survive." At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. So that, but my favorite part of karaoke, of any visit to the karaoke place, is in the last like 20 minutes where you're like your throat is raw and everybody's just singing everything together. So I love for those moments, Summer of '69, and we always end with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
I have been working on a duet with my brother-in-law Simon, who's also my producer or my editor for the podcast, and we've been working on Under Pressure for years and years and years. So I get to be Freddie Mercury and go really high because I studied opera and stuff. So I just try to keep that going, and he's David Bowie. So we've been working on it. We haven't hit perfection yet, but we're getting there, I think.
Okay.
I think.
And I'm almost there.
Yeah, almost. Like if I can sing it and not feel physical pain after, then I'll know. That we've achieved it. Yeah.
Didn't know I was having a singer on this podcast today.
Yeah, I was that was my thing when I was in high school. I was a voice major at a performance arts high school.
Okay.
And I went to this was for the years that we lived in York region. Because we moved from Quebec in 1989, and then I went to Queens in 1998. So I basically spent my teen years in that area. And the high school where I went was the same high school as Hayden Christensen, who was 2 years behind me. And so I knew Hayden when he was like, like just not who you think is going to grow up to be Darth Vader, right? Like it was, we did a show called Working that was all about like, people singing like different careers. It was like a musical, like a high school musical type deal. And he was the fireman, and he was just like, Hayden wearing a fireman's it was like a little kid wearing a fireman's outfit. It was like adorable and endearing, and very talented, but there's like, we were all so young, right? There's nothing in that said he's going to be Anakin Skywalker someday. There's nothing in that. And that's how, and doing musicals though around town was how I met my friend Stephen Lobo, who he was like Kaniki, I was Rizzo. Yeah, decades go by. Well, I mean, actually, a decade went by, and then he was the lead of a show called Godiva's, and he was out here. And then he did Continuum. He played a really bad guy on Continuum, a great character named Kellogg. And yeah, it's we've become very good friends again in the last decade, which has been really cool. You know, actually, of everybody I know out here, with the exception of my parents who moved out here, I've known him the longest because we were I think I was 15 or 16 when we did Grease, and I am 41 now. So it's been a while, which is really cool to, you know, to see how somebody's journey can go. Like I was in the that production of Grease was Steve's very first time acting, which is so cool to think about, you know, to see what he's done in his career since then, including Fucking Idiots, which was the last film that I mentioned in my last answer.
Oh,
yeah,
we're really going all for it.
Yeah.
and also just to clarify, how old were you when you knew Hayden Christensen?
So this was high school because I was at Unionville High School from 1993 to 1998, and I think he was 2 years younger. I mean, I can check the yearbook, but he was 2 years younger, I think. And it was, I mean, he was working at that time, like, but you know, a lot of the kids, because he was a drama major, a lot of the kids in the drama, you know, program were working. We also had, there was a show called Ready or Not. I don't know if you remember that show. It was about two teen girls, one who's blonde and, you know, more preppy, and then the other one who's more of a quote unquote tomboy. So her name was Busy. That actress, Lonnie Billard, was in my cohort, was in my grade. She's in the drama program there. So, you know, a lot of people like worked. But as far as like having that, like, you know, blockbuster, you know, breakout career thing, like he was the biggest deal for sure. But you wouldn't know it at the time. He was just Hayden, you know,
just Hayden in a fireman suit.
In the fireman, he was so good. But it was, I think that was. But I mean, you look back at any high school, you know, production now, and it's like we're all acting as like we're pretending to be adults, like we're pretending to be in our 40s. Or you have the person who's playing the you know, the dying grandparent, and they're 14. You know, so it was kind of like, you know, Hayden was not a fireman. He was not a firefighter. He don't look like one. It was so like ridiculous, but in the way that high school drama, you know, is ridiculous. Yeah. I wouldn't trade those years for anything, though. They were, I mean, as far as high school experiences go, I mean, teen years just suck anyways, just like your 20s can really suck as well. 30s, it all turns around. It's great. But like, it was a really fun place and such a creative place to go to school. So I'm grateful for it.
Okay. Now I have two more, if that's okay. Favorite junk food?
This changes. How about I'll do sweet. And I'll do like salty savory. I'm much more of a salty savory person. I really love poutine. Ooh. And it is a hard thing to get out here. Good quality one to get out here in Vancouver. It's hard. I love that. I also love anything fried.
Okay.
Deep fried dill pickles are amazing to me. And I love corn dogs. And we actually have a place downtown I haven't been to yet, but I want to go. And it's a Korean corn dog place. And they have like 30 different flavors of both with fillings and with toppings. As far as the sweet side, I will always be like 7 years old if I go into a 7-Eleven. Like, first of all, I will still call a convenience store a dépanneur, because that is like, I would go to the dépanneur in Quebec to go and get my candies. I love like just like the trash candy. Like I love the little garbage cans that are filled with like the chalky candy. I love sweet tarts. I love bottle caps. I love like the candy that is like literally for little children. Like I have to hide from and nerds. I love nerds. Like I just love candy. Like candy that is for kids, but I eat it.
You've been preparing for this question for a while, I think.
I love candy. I mean, I was, you know, my daughter and I were talking about, the candy that she likes versus the candy that I like. And
Okay.
because also she discovered recently I have a hiding spot. She's like, "What are all these like nerds and sweet tarts and Swedish berries for?" And I was like, she's like, "Are you gonna give them to me?" I'm like, "No, that's my candy. That's my candy stash." And she was like devastated. I'm like, "Look, like I will share with you, but I also need like if I need my sugar, I need it now, and I just don't always feel like sharing every single thing in my life
I
with you."
got you.
Yeah.
I love that she found it.
Yeah, and well, she has her own, and she's not necessarily into like she loves and I also do love them. And it's a very Eastern Canada thing, the Hawkins cheesies. Like that instead of having a regular old Cheeto, you have one of,
Okay.
the Hawkins cheesies in the white, blue, and red bag, and they're so pigmented orange and they're just so crunchy. Yeah, she loves those.
Never
So,
had those. I picked up a Humpty Dumpty bag of Cheetos the other day though.
I mean,
And like
that's good, but
Airheads.
Hawkins is from Belleville.
Ah, okay.
Like it is like I remember Paul and I were going to visit a friend of ours in Germany in Berlin. This is in 2007, and we're like, "Is there anything that we can bring you from Canada?" And she's like, and she was from Ottawa. She was from Ottawa, and she
Oh,
asked
cool.
for Hawkins cheesies. So it was we went to like a whole bunch of other places before we went to Berlin, and so we carried these cheesies, these Hawkins cheesies for her all over Europe. That was hilarious. But she was she's like, "There's nothing like that this year." I'm like, "But this is Berlin. There's like really good stuff, but no Hawkins cheesies.
That's awesome.
Hawkins cheesies,
I
yeah."
love it. Also, I would like to apologize of my grimace when you said dill pickle. I have an aversion to dill pickle.
It's okay. You're allowed to have that. It's fun. I'm not gonna yuck your yum. I
I
think
didn't mean to
also like
yuck
that's
yours.
the more the Ukrainian side of me is very dill oriented. But when I was in university, and frankly, I don't think you can really taste the dill pickle in a fried dill pickle. But our pub
Okay.
at Queens, the Queens pub, they just got this new fryer, and so that's where they offered the deep fried dill pickles, and I just and like was just dipping it in like ranch sauce, and it was just oh, it was so good. It's so bad, but so good. But you're allowed to like what you want to like. It's fine. Don't
Yeah,
judge you.
fair enough. I hope I didn't judge you. I know a lot of people
And
love dill pickle.
you're allowed to do that. I mean, frankly, like I love like I going to the CNE back in the day when I was out east or the PNE here, like when it's open. All of those food trucks, all the fair food, like I think that's like fair food is my favorite food, really.
Okay.
Just fried,
Just fry it all.
fried, and
Fry anything.
cheese. Yeah. Oh my God, it's just so good. Yeah, I got to go once to a poutine festival in Old Montreal, and that was like amazing.
What did you get?
Uh, I got one because I was like, well, because I mean, I like a classic poutine, but I'm like, I wanted to get a really, one that was distinctive. So I don't even want to tell you because you're gonna be like disgusted. It came with smoked meat and then some beautiful sliced dill pickles on top,
Okay. I see.
and
I
some
love the.
mustardy, cheesy kind of thing going on. It was amazing.
Okay, I like the smoked meat part.
Oh, I miss smoked meat too. All this
Oh,
food that I can't eat right now because
now
it's
you're
over where you are. It's not here.
now you're hungry.
I'm hungry. It's 12. It's the noon hour.
Yes.
So
Okay.
time to eat very shortly.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'll ask this last one, which
Okay?
I loved your thought-provoking question of just so I'll have to put a spin on it because
Okay.
you had asked just like you had asked when you were starting out your film career, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, would you say anything to your younger self as you were starting your journalism career?
Ooh.
And this is your question. I love it.
I know. I mean, but I've thought about this, but not about my career. I've thought about this, as a woman, as a human, like what I would go and say
Okay.
to be like, don't like, don't go with him. Don't do like, just to prevent myself from harm. Um, you really make me think here, huh? read more, listen more, talk to everybody, and trust your gut.
Cool.
Because it took me a while to learn to trust my instincts, and all the things that have gone really well or that have led to something have been from those moments where I've actually just trusted my gut. Um, oh, and I would also say don't trust the imposter syndrome.
Oh, when you don't think you're good enough?
Yeah, because that is just a gaslighting, self-destructive voice. I wish that I had come into the industry knowing even more than I did. And so that's where the reading would come in.
Okay.
And, I think there were opportunities I squandered, like when I was in my early 20s and newly arrived, where I could have been, instead of trying to talk myself up and to make myself feel like I was, oh, I'm so confident and look at me. The opportunity for listening. I squandered those, especially at events when, Paul, uh, when he was 23, got a job at a really cool company. They were called Rainmaker Visual Effects back then, and I got to go to these events, for really cool projects like Tropic Thunder and iRobot, and a lot of talking animal movies. And Paul was a visual effects editor on those, and I was young, like a lot younger, so I was doing work I wasn't happy with. So people say, "How are you?" And then I would be the one talking and talking and talking all the time, which I have been doing for the last hour. But that's because you asked me to do it. And I think there were more opportunities back then where I could have asked more questions of other people, and I could have listened, and internalized what they said. Um, looking, instead of like trying to figure all the things out on my own, I should have like sought for mentorship and just sought guidance elsewhere. I think I would have gotten to a feeling of self-actualization sooner. But all that said, like even the mistakes that I've made, or the time I spent in a career that really wasn't for me, I learned so much from all of that. Even in putting YVR Screen Scene for India together, the years that I spent as publicist for the Vancouver International Dance Festival, it's probably not the best job for me, but I know how to put on an event because of that. I know about, there's a lot of uh, of skills that I got from that, and and also a knowledge about how the media industry works, and about what a publicist does, and about what social, about guerrilla marketing and stuff. So even the mistakes, like they might have just made the journey longer, but I still got something from them. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh, wait, I have one more piece of advice for her. Can I just tell her one more thing?
Oh, for sure.
I would say also that I know that you are embarrassed for people to know that you're a geek. And I know that you keep your Star Trek figures under your bed. And I know that like all of that nerdy stuff that you love, like you love it, but you don't want people to know about it. Well, guess what? That's going to be a huge part of your identity and your career moving forward, and it's actually going to be the thing that really gives you an edge, and you need to honor that part of you more, and don't be ashamed, because that is how you're going to get exactly what you want, even though you don't know what you want, but you got some cool stuff coming down the road. So, and I would say that to every geek, everybody with a passion. That's that stuff that you're ashamed of, that stuff, it's what you love. Don't be ashamed. It's what makes you special. So, and if somebody is going to judge you, no, frankly, the geeks run the world now, which is really great, but if somebody's not going to accept you, or if they're going to judge you for it, well, then they're not for you. Because you can actually access so many incredible. I was in isolation. Like I was a sci-fi nerd in 1987. Like I went to conventions, maybe once every couple of years at an airport hotel that I would find out about in the back of Starlog magazine, right? Like it was,
Okay.
it was a different time. So yeah, I would say, yeah, honor your inner geek. Don't be ashamed.
I love that so much. Kind of got chills, and that
Mm.
you saying just like how geeks run the world now. That makes me think of that scene in 21 Jump Street when like they put a switch, like when Channing Tatum's like Jonah Hill's like, oh, I would have been so cool in high school if this
Mm.
were now. He's like, and Channing Tatum's like, oh, I blame Glee. Yeah.
Like it's a wild ride. I don't think that there was any career path to this moment. But it was like a lot of, yeah, a lot of just loving what I love, and then, going for it, and taking advantage of opportunities or making my own opportunity. Because this is what this last thing is. This is YVR Screen Scene is mine. It's what I'm building. And I will work with other media organizations, and or like, I write for Monte Cristo magazine. I will go on as a guest on people's shows and stuff. And but I also, I mean, as you probably feel, there is just a joy in building something that is yours and reflects who you are, and the content that you put out into the world that you believe in. Like it's terrifying, and it's also just awesome to be captaining the ship in that kind of way. So
For sure.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
I'm glad you found your people, and I really appreciate you coming on today and just letting me turn the tables on you. And
This was so much fun. It's so weird. Like my throat is sore now. I've never had this experience of being the one to keep talking and talking and talking. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for your support of YVR Screen Scene for India.
yeah, so
It means a lot.
do we want to plug it one more time just so people
I
can find
will
it?
plug it.
Yes.
So, YVR Screen Scene for India features myself, Sabrina Rani Furminger, in conversation with some of the shining stars of BC film and television, including Agam Darshi, Praneet Akilla, Dhirendra, Sandy Sidhu, Sachin Sahel, and Rekha Sharma. It's definitely an inside the actor studio with a South Asian Canadian twist. It will take place at 2 p.m. on Saturday, May 8th online. And tickets are right now. They are right now available at yvrscreenscene.com. That's YVRScreenscene.com. And then, yeah, look for the pictures of all those beautiful South Asian Canadian faces, and that will take you to the ticketing page.
So
And
awesome.
every single penny goes to Gunj, to Doctors Without Borders, and to Khalsa Aid International, all of whom are doing incredible work providing aid to people suffering in India.
So awesome. I'm glad I could help promote it. Cool.
I'm glad to.
So Sabrina Furminger, host of the YVR Screen Scene podcast.
That's right.
Thank you so much for chatting with me on the Filmcraziest Show. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Daniel.